All right, here is Anti-Warism, who says, Glenn, what are your thoughts on people getting fired for hate and political speech? I spent some time thinking about it when I saw that self-identified fascist who debated Mehdi Hasan in a recent viral clip allegedly got fired from his job. People argue that it's a private employer's choice on who they want to keep, and only the government has to respect the First Amendment, which I guess makes sense. But I find that most people are completely hypocritical about this when it comes to speech that they like. Yes, this was the idea of cancel culture and the objections to it. It wasn't about government attacks on free speech. That is a violation of First Amendment. It was the idea that if you express views that are disliked by mainstream thought, that now you get fired, you get canceled, and it happens not just to people in prominent positions, but also to people in lower level positions. So here's the example. Honestly, I hate this whole format that has become popular, this like surrounded Jubilee format. I can't stand how Mehdi Hasan debates. He wrote a book saying, I'm the greatest debater, and really all he does is just filibuster and talk over people. Maybe you get out 4 or 5 words until he starts speaking over you, and he thinks that's somehow an effective way of debating. But here's the person who basically self-identified as a fascist when Mehdi accused him of being one. He then lost his job. I think it's like a 21-year-old kid. All these people at this place were quite young. And here's what happened.
Quite frankly, if Trump is anti-Constitution, good, and I think he should go further.
So this is wonderfully revealing of the modern conservative mindset. So I appreciate you spelling it out so openly. Just checking, do you support the Second Amendment?
I do.
Okay, surprise! I was shocked to hear that. I'm saying that Donald Trump is defying the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. He's thinking of defying the 12th and 22nd Amendments. You're saying you don't care about the Constitution, but actually you do because you quite like the Second Amendment. You just don't like the bits that you disagree with. Can I just be clear on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to amend it and include
whenever
the
it's in your
Second
favor.
Amendment. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So can Democrats do the same when they're in office?
No, absolutely not. Because
so you don't
it's the
believe in
friend enemy.
democracy?
No, I don't. Absolutely not.
What do you believe in?
Autocracy.
A little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you can say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am. Absolutely.
I'm just checking who's clapping just to get my set of where everyone is on this.
All right, so can I understand why an employer would want to disassociate themselves from that person saying that in that manner? Yes, I can understand that. But I also think that if we have this climate where people cannot say what they believe unless it's completely acceptable to power factions or mainstream forces, that even though we have a First Amendment that restricts what the government can do in theory, oftentimes cultural repression and social ostracization are much more potent and effective tools for controlling ideas. In fact, George Orwell has wrote a preface to Animal Farm where he basically said that although the Soviet Union has very overt forms of repression and censorship, if you criticize Stalin, the KGB shows up at your house and takes you away and sends you to a gulag, Siberia or whatever, that actually the British form of censorship is much more effective. It's basically deluding people into thinking that they're free, but making sure they get fired, they're not employable, they don't get heard in media if they express any opinions outside the very narrow range of accepted opinion. And ironically, his preface couldn't be published because it was too sensitive. It seemed like almost too pro-Russian at a time when the West was entering the Cold War by saying, oh, look, the Russian form of oppression is less effective than the British form, kind of proving his point that his preface was censored, but it's now available. You can go read it online. I think it's absolutely right. And one of the things, there was all these examples in the Black Lives Matter movement, with Me Too, when low-level workers got fired for any kind of questioning or deviation from the right language. They had a truck driver who stopped, and he supposedly made the OK sign at a traffic stop, and that was interpreted as a white supremacist message, and he got fired. Media outlets were doxing people for comments they were leaving to get them fired. And that climate is incredibly repressive and intimidating. But after October 7th, huge numbers of people in media and Hollywood in politics, in journalism, were fired for expressing criticism of Israel and their destruction of Gaza, in academia as well. And suddenly all the concerns about cancel culture disappeared. So if you're 21 years old and you go and you basically say, I want Trump to be a king and an autocrat, and that's because I'm a fascist, that's still self-identifying as a fascist is going to fall rather shockingly on the ears of a lot of people in the United States. And if you're if you're an employer who deals with the public and you're a private company, especially if you're in a certain community, you deal with a certain group of people, it might be very harmful to your business interests to have somebody like that employed. So I understand why that could happen. But I also think it can be very dangerous to create a climate where people are dealt with when they express an opinion that they dislike, not by being disagreed with, not by being even disliked or ostracized, but by being punished. Again, if this were an isolated case, I would say you do have, when you live in a society, you do have to kind of think about how you express yourself and what effect it has on others. And if you decide you don't, then you probably are going to suffer consequences. It's just a lesson you learn in life of living in a society. You have to accommodate to some extent how you're perceived. But I also think that it can be very dangerous if it becomes too much of a automatic reaction, which in a lot of different ways I think it became, and a lot of the right was very opposed to these sorts of things when it was conservatives who were largely the target of it. And then after October 7th, a lot of that changed, where people started applying and applauding much more draconian forms of cancel culture, like Bill Ackman spearheading and organizing a blacklist among the most powerful law firms and Wall Street banks and hedge funds to vow never to hire undergraduate kids, 18 to 22, who sign a letter condemning Israel for their use of indiscriminate violence in Gaza, trying to make sure they're unemployable, and having mass firings of people who express similar views. I noticed the disappearance of the concerns over cancel culture when that happened. And so if you're going to be concerned with cancel culture and you don't apply it equally, it's like anything, not really a principle. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.